Just after takeoff from Washington, D.C.'s National Airport, an Air Florida jet crashes into the icy Potomac River.
Washington Tower said that they'd lost an airplane and wanted us to go out and see what we could find.
National Park policeman Gene Windsor, along with chopper pilot Don Usher, search for survivors. They find 6 people in the frigid waters, clinging to a piece of floating wreckage. The tower calls off the rescue due to blizzard conditions. They ignore orders. The first rescue is Bert Hamilton. Desperate to climb aboard, he had grabbed hold of one of the chopper's skids. Gene coaxes him back into the water and lowers a rope.
He got it around his chest, under his arms, and we picked him up out of the water and delivered him to the rescuers on the shore.
Gene and Don fly back to the wreckage and throw the rope to flight attendant Kelly Duncan, the only crew member to survive the crash.
And I raised my hand up to the sky, and it just kind of went up into the right place, and I pulled the rope around the back of me. It just took me right out of the water.
Next, Gene returns to the remaining survivors and drops a line to Joe.
Joe Stiley got the line with the throwing ring on it, put his right arm and his head through that.
But I couldn't leave Nikki, and I couldn't leave Priscilla, because there was nothing, I mean, if I left, they were going to go under.
Joe decides to take the 2 women with him.
I told him I needed 2 lines, so he dropped me down another line. I was afraid he was going to try to lift us, and I was trying to calculate how that might work, but he didn't. He just towed us.
Joe Stiley grabbed Priscilla Torrado with his left arm, and Nikki Phelps grabbed a hold of the second rope and was holding on. We lost Nikki about halfway in. She dropped off the rope. Joe had 2 broken legs, and the numbness from the hypothermia, he lost his grip on her. And Priscilla was left on a piece of ice.
Gene turns his attention back to Priscilla.
We came back for Priscilla, and we attempted her rescue with the throwing ring. She was blind, as we found out later, by jet fuel in her eyes. Her rescue was completed by Lenny Skutnik, who jumped into the water.
This man was not part of the rescue team, simply a bystander. Nikki is still stranded in the frozen water.
We went back for Nikki Phelps. We tried to get her again on the rope. It wasn't working. As it turned out, she had 2 broken arms. And so we sat right down next to her on the water, and I stepped out on the skid. I grabbed hold of her, and she held on to me, and we flew right to shore.
As the day's survivors are rushed to ambulances, Gene and Don fly the chopper back to the wreckage. A sixth man, Atlanta banker Arlen Williams, had been pinned there since the beginning. And if you look closely, you can see his hands.
He said he couldn't get out, that he was pinned in, or his seatbelt had him in. Something was holding him there.
3 times Arlen had been handed a rope, and 3 times he gave it to someone else.
It took great courage on his part to pass it off, and I wanted a chance at repaying his courage.
But before Gene and Don can get to Arlen, the wreckage shifts and sinks. He had survived a plane crash, and then 45 minutes later, drowned before he could be rescued. The 5 survivors pulled from the wreckage were taken to the hospital, and all recovered.
Don Usher and Gene Windsor could never be praised enough.
Those guys ignored their own safety just to arrive on the scene.
You want to have that chance to do good.
Sometime during the time I was out there, I was conscious it was my son's birthday. I really wanted to be around for some more of those.
After it was completed, and I called home and talked to my wife, and I told her about the 6th man. And I told her we weren't able to rescue him. And with that, the tears flowed. It came out at that time. But we did save 5.